Investigation 2, Sorting Out Life. Students use ecosystem sorting cards to reflect on organizing concepts in ecology and develop the vocabulary associated with those concepts. Through a Jane Goodall video, students become familiar with the specific population study of chimpanzees. You'll notice in the right column I have listed the student learning outcomes. Analyze and sort images of cards to determine which represents individuals, populations, communities, and ecosystems. Identify biotic and abiotic elements in an ecosystem. Relate the characteristics of a population, community, and ecosystem. Differentiate among them. I have reinserted this page, Getting Started, as a reminder of what you will find at the beginning of each investigation. Investigation 2, Part 1, Ecosystem Card Sort. Students are introduced to the basic definitions used in ecological studies: population, community, ecosystems, and biotic and abiotic factors. They work in groups to sort pictures into categories based on the definitions. After discussing the sorting activity, students record their sorting results on a sheet. Tell students that some of these words have certain meanings when used in everyday conversation. However, they have specific scientific definitions as well, and the scientific meaning is what will be used in class. Once students have completed that activity, we will review the card sorting results. Students are still working in their groups, but this time they're working with larger versions of the ecosystem cards. They will have time to compile the cards into the different categories as they did on the smaller sheet. Once they have completed that, student groups will have one volunteer come up and place a card under the category that they have agreed it belongs to. No conversation will take place until after all cards have been placed in the categories. Once they're done, we will review what students have on the board. Volunteers will raise their hand and decide whether or not all cards are in the proper place. If they are not, we will have one student come up, offer an explanation, and place the card in the spot that it belongs. Students will have a short article, Life in a Community, as a homework assignment. Once you give students this activity, a copy of the article, their focus question is, in the text, the author discusses two different meanings of the word community, a scientific meaning and a common meaning. How do the author define the common use of the word community and the scientific use of the word community? Students will complete this assignment by using the compare and contrast chart to discuss the similarities and differences of the common and scientific usage of the word community. The next day, students will be taken on an ecology field study. Real-world connections to help them understand these words and incorporate them into their functional language quickly. Students will set up one page in their notebooks with the same headings that we were discussing yesterday and record the object they think fits into that category. We go to the park that is adjacent to our school and make observations and collect information. Students break off into groups of 4 and are given tools, hand lenses, specimen dishes, gloves, spoons, rulers, goggles, their notebooks, and pens and pencils. By now, students know that I expect to see both qualitative and quantitative observations in their notebooks. Students will write a one-page reflection of their field study as homework. Investigation 2, Part 2, Video Population Study. Before we start the video population study, we will review the reading and discuss the word community in greater depth. Next, I will introduce population studies, discussing the 3 versions of population, of the 3 types of population studies, bringing in population to the laboratory, which they will be doing with the milkweed bugs, creating a miniature version of the ecosystem it lives in, which they will do with the terrestrial ecosystems as well as the aquatic ecosystem, and study a population in its natural surroundings. They will not get to do this, but they will actually view the population study in Natural Surroundings by Jane Goodall. Next, we will preview the student sheet that is associated with the video study. Then we will arrange the video viewing. The video is 59 minutes long, and a good stopping place for the first session is about 30 minutes into the video, which comes right after the discussion of the chimps using the leaves as sponges. The investigation part 2 video population study, there are 7 questions that are associated with the video. So students will read these. I will read them with them to make sure they fully understand. I have not spoken to you about assessments, so this is a good opportunity. Formative assessments. There are a number of ways that students are assessed without being graded, but to use as check-ins. Quick Writes provides the insight into what students think about certain phenomena before you begin formal instruction. Informal Notes, when students are learning new skills or participating in a general introduction to a new content area, we suggest using informal notes as the assessment strategy. See the chart below it. Teacher observation is suggested throughout the course as a way to quickly check specific skills or understandings during the investigations. You will find suggestions about what to look for in the Getting Ready section before each part. Student sheets, as the one that I just referred to, are organized data during an investigation, or student sheets provide valuable information about student progress. Student notebooks or journals often produce work that is not guided by a formal sheet. They may jot down notes or write a position paper, experiment design, mini research, and so on. Many of these will provide valuable information about how students are forming ideas. The summative assessment. Foster defines summative assessment as those used for evaluative purposes. They are graded. They are not given before students have had opportunities to gather and process information. Understanding the big ideas of science requires that students construct relationships among many different pieces of evidence. So it's important that students have time to build these higher levels of understanding before they are assessed. Assessments that are graded almost always occur at the end of an investigation, and most investigations include a mid-summative exam, which is a short pre-test test presented in a number of formats. This is an example of the mid-summative exam that will be given at the end of investigation number 2. Students will need 10 to 15 minutes to complete this exam, and I often use it as I do now. This concludes investigation number 2.